Hello and welcome. Here's a video that's been coming for basically the past 2 years. Okay, some students or colleagues have actually asked me to do, I would say, a summary of the last 25 years of my life using Linux. This, by the way, this list is only me testing the latest existing distributions that I've had the pleasure of working with, playing on, configuring, installing either for workstations, servers, for gaming, for specific tasks, especially in the scientific area of Linux, and even educational reasons too. So like for schools and universities in my lifetime, let's just put it like that. Um, some I was during this year because it took me basically almost the whole year. That's why I was waiting till the end of the year to do this test, to do the final recording of the video, because I was testing more or less. Each one was tested during this year on my second computer, about 2 to 5 days each. Okay, and there's 90 something distributions that I can talk about, and I made this list mainly for the questions that I was getting for. Can I use this distribution for gaming? Can I use this one for work? Can I use this one for? So you most of the time you hear that Ubuntu is the most popular one. Arch gives you the most I would say flexibility and in a very creative way things that you can do there. Okay, and there's gaming specific ones. Beside um, Devorez, Garuda, there's specific ones that focus more on gaming. Okay, there's specific ones also that focus more on academic, like schools, educational. There's more specific that focus on specific things. Okay, because for example, I also mentioned here in this list Red Hat. I know Red Hat is somewhere in there. You're not gonna be playing games on Red Hat. You could, but it's not normal. The same as you will be using Linux from scratch or beyond Linux from scratch to play games. So there's um there's multiple things that I want you guys to all my students, every colleague that I have, everybody that wanted to join or start thinking about going to Linux, which by the way, eh, 2024 was the year to start jumping to Linux because of the movements that have been happening there, not just the gaming part, but others areas as well, especially work related ones. But 2025 just blew the whole thing up, and it's much easier. And thanks to Windows with their things that they're doing, which I'm gonna be making a video about, it's more related to a lot of people that don't want to stay on Windows anymore. Mainly because I'm guessing most of you already know that the performance with the same hardware that you have, the performance on Linux in general, it's much better than Windows, even the latest update that they have. It's more secure. It's not gonna be like reading up on everything that you do on the computer and then sending it out to a Windows server and stuff like that. Okay, so you get more performance for the long run. You don't need an antivirus, anti-Trojan, uh, the malware, the bunch of malware things that ironically Windows uses, being them Windows on the computer to slow it down, and then the performance bottlenecks that you get because of that, and the loading issues and so on and so forth. There's a video that I'll be doing about that. In regards to this document here, which I'm pretty sure not gonna be doing again, but you'll be able to use it as a base, okay? Because I know things did change during this year for some of the distros here, but you'll be able to use it as a base for future, let's say rankings, and depending on the ranking. In my case, I rank them based on how difficult they are to use, okay? And I created, as always, 10 levels, so you can guess which ones are easier to install, to use, to expect certain things to be installed by default, the community support, the actual support for the distro, how easy it is to get updates to it, how easy it is to extend uh, the package installation on new packages, third-party packages on it, how easy it is to get help for certain weird issues on it, and how compatible that distro is on multiple industries. Okay, this is not just gaming. The channel is more about gaming. Okay, but anybody that has worked with me or is a student, then they know that it's more about work when I offer Linux. In this case, I'm going to include gaming, but just so you know, I'm more work related with Linux and everything else. So, in the first ranks, the first level. By the way, this rank thing here is not which one's ranking better. It just that's the order in which I started putting them in, and then just put the numbers there. It's mainly this one, the levels in which they are. So, in the first rank for super beginner friendly or ultra beginner here, you got Linux Mint, Soaring OS, Ubuntu, Chrome OS Flex, and Linux Lite. Okay, they're very easy to install and set up and all that, but it doesn't mean that they're we gotta go with these ones because that's why I added the other ones, the other columns here. So flexibility talks about how many changes, how much can you change that distro to what you want, what you would like. Okay, the ecosystem is related to the support, how often you see that distro used at a educational level, academic level in this case, technology level, technology companies in general. Okay, how often do you see third-party software mentioning or creating a package for Ubuntu, which could be just Debian? I mean, come on, but for Ubuntu, how often do you see, how often you see that distro being mentioned or used in different levels? Political levels, educational levels, military levels, government related tools, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so that's what this means. The whole the ecosystem popularity. I added for for people that are used to a specific package manager or package installer, what that distro uses. So you can see, look at my baby here, Portage Gen 2. Um, and what their parent distro is. So who who basically creates the packages for them and then they polish them up even more. Okay, so here we can see that Ubuntu's parent is Debian, and Debian basically you know makes all the packages for Ubuntu, most of them, and then Ubuntu just polishes them up for themselves. Soaring OS and Linux Mint do the same thing, so it's like a second level polish in there. So that's good. And here you can see the release cycle. So is it a rolling release? Is it a fixed cycle? So every 2 years, every 6 months? Is it LTS, long-term support, or just the short one? I don't know why I put 6 months. Is it 6 months or 9 months? I forgot here. Anyway, and the default desktop environment, some give you the ability to choose what the hell you want, and some actually just force you into one. Okay, some people are um, they like the one that they're in, or they get used to it. Okay, one thing at least for the Linux old school is that there's a period in which you don't want to get used to something. You want to learn from different intellectual concepts. Okay, you want to learn from different ideas on how to create a UX. So when I actually started on GNOME, and then because of the hardware that I had at that time, we're talking 2001, so and I didn't have a lot of money, so I was using a lot of Xphase, not OpenBox because I didn't either it didn't exist yet or I didn't know about it, but LXD and Xphase were the two that I was using by that time. And then and then I learned about KDE, and actually I'm a KDE fan. Next year you'll be seeing that I'll just be using Ubuntu in this case, and I'll be staying on Ubuntu. GNOME mainly, even though simplicity, the idea of simplicity and all that, I it got to a point, and if you've been using GNOME for like 20 years, you've seen that too. They started stripping out things that were important as a user in the UX department. Okay. Meanwhile, KDE wasn't doing that. They were just polishing their thing. So one of the reasons I'm moving to KDE is because the flexibility and the fact that they give me the ability to make it my own, change the theme to what I want, change the usage, change the design, change the whole thing to what I need is great. Okay, something that GNOME doesn't offer at all, and they keep on stripping things. So anyway, so that's what the default desktop environment is for. So anything that's on level one, it's easy to install, and it's easy to use, and they have extra stuff like the ecosystem popularity and the package management and all of that. Now you can see that Chrome OS is very low on ecosystem because it's for their device. Okay, so that this low here, it just means that it's, the usage for that distro is very specific, especially for their Chrome OS. Okay, that's why, and the flexibility means that it doesn't allow you to do a lot of things with it. It's what you see is what you get kind of thing here. Okay, so you got those there. Then you got Pop OS here, very high. They're very popular, very easy to install. Same with Passat with the it's an RPM baby there from Fedora. Fedora is also a big one there. Um, so you can see that basically I would say like this chunk here, they're all easy. It's just that some are more easier than others. And you can see how the installation process can be friendly, I would say, from the point of view of first timers. Um, that I'm guessing have installed at least Windows in their lifetime, or at least one distro in their lifetime, and who they're based in, if they're rolling in release. Like this is a very interesting one, which is a Tuxedo OS based on Ubuntu with a rolling release using KDE. Like this is my holy mother, my go-to. Like that has the combination of everything that I want. There's a lot of things that you learn when you start going through all the distros like that. So I could keep on going, and you're gonna see Garuda Linux is just, hey, you need a little bit more knowledge in regards to the installation process. They use Pacman, which is the same thing as an app or an RPM or Portage or Zipper or DNF. You get used to the package installer. Let's just put it like that. And I'll be sharing this on the description, by the way. But it's just so you know that I'm trying to save you in decision making in regards to, which ones I could test. I actually, my people call it distro hopping. So my distro hopping, total distro hopping, I would say it's over 200. But again, we're talking 24 years of Linux experience. In some points, I had to test them for a couple of months. In some points, so let's say it's a very long testing process. And in some points, I actually had to test for the universities multiple distros at the same time for several months. So because they were either competing because of compatibility, or they're competing because of performance, or they're competing because of hardware compatibility with some of the tools that the university was using, or we actually needed to code at that time in C and C++ to make some software for the Linux, so it would work on that specific distro, and so on and so forth. Okay, so there's a lot, but I only left this ones here so you guys know if you want to use Linux and just use it and that's it, like Windows style, you install it, you use it, I'm happy with that. Or you actually want to learn about Linux. You actually want to understand how it works and all that. For that, here's Arch Linux, by the way. A lot of people tell me, "Oh my God, that's super hard to install." Arch Linux is on level 6. Then you got level 7, which are more complex. They actually need you to be a tech guy. Okay, they require you to have some not only basic but common knowledge about hardware and networking, all that. And I can keep on going down. This is my baby go-to. Like I used Gen 2 for several years, um, because of the power, the stage 3 kind of thing, and the things that we're able to do there. Bedrock Linux, I put it like that because you can actually do whatever you want with it, like literally whatever you want with it. Okay, and it's because of the way that it merges the distros. Anyway, yeah, things that you need to learn at a technical level. And we can just get to Linux from scratch, for example, if it's again for educational purposes. Obviously, you can configure it to whatever you want, or you can, after finishing the Linux from scratch, I would say tutorial, you can go to Beyond Linux from scratch. I put this "You only live once" in there, but it's this distros, or let's just say we can extend that to Linux from scratch all the way down here. That would teach you how Linux works at the core, at the kernel level. Okay, in different flavors, because you can see them here. How the hell you want to base them in, or just base them nothing and start from scratch. Obviously, take into account how long it's going to take you to prepare the installation process and do the installation process and your internet speed. In the cases that uses internet, because there's a couple here that you can actually download the whole thing just using locally. I mean, but here you can see a full list of very difficult ones. I would highly recommend playing with Linux from scratch. It's not a distro; you're actually creating your own. Same for Beyond Linux. Same for a couple of the ones here. Tails is very friendly to the experience of learning. Let's put it like that. Um, oh, Tiny Core, Poppy Linux. Poppy Linux is a very, 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 very old one. That it's how a lot of people actually started with. Damn Small Linux was is they haven't updated it like in a year or two, but Damn Small Linux, the name is because it's a very small distro. I typically used it for recovering information, fixing networking issues in companies, big companies, and stuff like that. There's one that it wasn't, well, there's for security related this one, but there's one. Let me see if I put it here. Oh, Parrot. Um, let me see here if I can find it. Well, there's a couple for security related, like Kali Linux. Before Kali Linux, there was I forgot. I forgot what was. You can remember, put it in the comments. But before Kali Linux, there was a distribution for security, and which wasn't System Rescue CD. It was something else. And then before that one, it was System Rescue CD, which you would use to recover Windows NT passwords, or just the normal password of a computer, or recover information using test disk or photorec or other tools like that. But anyway, I left Red Hat here, which is basically it's an enterprise level distro. That's why it's funny if you were to use Red Hat for gaming, because it's like, what the hell. Um, but it's there, so you guys know at the work related level things that you would actually need to learn. RPMs, I feel, are one of the hardest package managers or things that you can learn out of basically the rest of them. Okay. I don't know if that's changed. I haven't playing around with the RPM hell, but um, I hope it has changed. Yeah, so here's a list so you can decide, you know what, I'm gonna try to go as high as this level or that level to learn about Linux, or put it as a level that I want to try to advance to in order to work with Linux. If you're doing gaming, you're most likely gonna be like up here somewhere. Even one of the toughest ones here, Arch Linux, that's used for gaming, you got in level 6. Well, Slackware. Slackware can also be for Linux. By the way, I left clear Linux here because again, this took me months. This list took me months to do, and clear Linux had not at that point ended in the beginning of this year. So that's why it's there. Okay, I'll just leave it there. You can still download it. I'm pretty sure you can still download it from the Clear Linux website. But just so you know that it's sad that Intel did what they did there. A Fact Dog, which is coming from Puppy Linux, and yeah, yeah, there's a lot of history here, a lot of good history. So I hope you guys like this list. It helps you guys decide. Uh, if you want to learn about Linux, you go down here somewhere. If you want to just use it, you can go up here somewhere. And that's it. Yeah. Hope you like the video. Big hugs. Think positive, and that's it. Signing out.